Hey, Shalom, Most High in Christ bless. Welcome to another edition of 15 Minutes with the Captains. Today you got Captain Emmanuel of IUIC Arkansas. Today we going to discuss the topic, financial woes. All right, a lot of us in this truth, we go through these rough patches financially and they are very trying times. So Lord's willing, in this 15-minute video, we get edified on how to move when these times occur. So get Sirach chapter 11 and verse 14.
The book of Sirach chapter 11 and verse 14.
Come on.
Prosperity and adversity, life and death, poverty and riches come of the Lord.
Right. So a lot of us, right, raised in Christianity, we tend to think I had a perspective that a person being in poverty, that must mean that they're not right with God. And if a person has a lot of material things, then maybe they're doing something right in the sight of God. But watch this. Give 1 Timothy 6, verse 5.
The book of 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 5.
Come on.
Perverse disputings of men
Read.
of corrupt minds.
So this is going into a man of a corrupt mind, not somebody that's in the truth. Go ahead.
And destitute of the truth.
Read.
Supposing that gain is godliness.
So this is the mindset that we've established growing up in a Christian church, that is not accurate with God. We suppose that gain is godliness, right? Your level of financial success has something to do with your level of righteousness. That is not the case. You understand? A lot of us may be made poor to hinder us from sinning. You understand? Or to try our faith to build us up in a certain area that we're lacking spiritually. Right? Meaning for our greater good. So watch this. Let's go to Job 1 and 1, the prime example. Job chapter 1 and verse 1.
The book of Job chapter 1 and verse 1.
Come on.
There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job.
Read.
And that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil.
Right, so Job was perfect. He was a commandment keeper. He wasn't an evildoer. Jump down to verse 3.
Verse 3. His substance also was 7,000 sheep, and 3,000 camels, and 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the East.
Right, so Job was rich. You understand? He was the richest man in that region of the earth in which he lived. Now watch this. Jump down to verse 10.
Verse 10.
Start at verse 9.
Verse 9. Then Satan answered the Lord and said, doth Job fear God for naught?
So Satan comes to the Lord and basically, the Lord was trying to brag on Job. And Satan was like, Job, fear God for he don't got no type of challenge in his faith. Watch this, read on.
Hast not thou made an hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side?
Come on.
Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land.
Read.
But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face.
So Satan was like, listen, you have built a spiritual guard around him to where I can't do nothing to him. And he rich. So I guarantee you, if you let me mess with him, you understand? And you take away that great substance that he got, I guarantee you, he gonna turn his back. You understand? You don't think that same conversation be had about us in this truth? You understand? You come in this truth, you got a good job, you got a nice house, you got a nice car, and you on fire for the Lord. You don't think Satan come about like, he only with his Israelite stuff because he make 6 figures.
Message.
Talking about Deuteronomy 28. But I bet you put his ass through Deuteronomy 28 for real. I guarantee you, he ain't gonna be with that like that. You understand? That same conversation be had about us. So this is not the Lord judging Job for any evil that he did. This is Satan trying to basically tell the Lord that he's disloyal, and the Lord is trying to prove Job's loyalty. Read on.
And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand.
Read.
So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord.
So Satan was able to attack Job's possessions, not his life yet, but his possessions. Now go to chapter 2, verse 3. So when you read the rest of the history in chapter 1, Job lost that great substance that we read in Job chapter 1, verse 3. Now watch this. Read that.
The book of Job, chapter 2 and verse 3.
Come on.
And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? And still he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him, to destroy him without cause.
Right. So the Lord allows Satan to mess with his finances, right? And Job did not turn his back as Satan predicted. He stayed loyal. He held fast his integrity. And that got him praise with God, honor with God. So you can't equate poverty or the losing of finances as if you're doing something wrong, right? It could simply be a trial. Jump down to verse 9.
Verse 9.
Come on.
Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die.
So we understand that the woman is the weaker vessel, but I wanted to hit this point because his sister's watching. And a lot of times when your husband got it going on, he got his good job, he holding it down, he filling up the refrigerator, he filling up the closet, you understand? You subservient and submissive with no problem. But as soon as your budget get affected, you're not able to eat what you want to eat, wear what you want to wear, so on and so forth, the devil will jump on you. You understand? That's a part of financial woes. That's why one of the most prevalent trials within a marriage is always the financial ones. You understand? That's the leading factor of divorce today. Financial woes. We see it right here in the Bible. Go ahead.
But he said unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh.
Read.
What? Shall we receive good at the hand of God? And shall we not receive evil?
So Job understood the first scripture we read, right? Prosperity and adversity. Good and evil. What did it say? Poverty and riches come of the Lord. You understand? You think it's just gonna be all peaches and cream? Hell no! Acceptable men are tried in the furnace of adversity. Read on.
In all this did not Job sin with his lips.
Meaning Job was on point. He was exactly right in what he said. So now, let's go to Sirach chapter 11 and verse 11. So you got to imagine if Job, when this stuff happened, his mind went somewhere else, right? And a lot of times that's what brothers and sisters do. When they go through these times, they think, oh, I got to break the Sabbath now. I got to go MIA. I got to make some stuff happen. I'm broke. No. The things written aforetime was written for our learning. Read what you got.
The book of Sirach, chapter 11 and verse 11.
Go ahead.
There is one that laboreth and taketh pains, and maketh haste.
And does what?
And maketh haste.
Read.
And is so much the more behind.
So why is this person that takes much labor and take pains, you understand? Why is he so much more behind? Go to Proverbs chapter 28 and verse 22. It says that person maketh haste. Watch this.
The book of Proverbs chapter 28 and verse 22.
Go ahead.
He that hasteth to be rich hath an evil eye.
Have a what?
An evil eye.
Read.
And considereth not that poverty shall come upon him.
He don't understand that he only gonna make his situation worse because his carnal pursuits are gonna cause him to backslide spiritually. And a lot of us do that in our haste. When times get rough, we forget about God and we go the opposite direction and we only make matters worse. We only end up so much the more behind. So go to Sirach chapter 2 verse 2. Watch this.
The book of Sirach chapter 2 and verse 2.
Go ahead.
Set thy heart aright and constantly endure.
Read.
And make not haste in time of trouble.
An example of a time of trouble is when your finances suddenly change. God said, don't make haste. Don't make hasty, irrational decisions in those situations. Go ahead.
Cleave unto him.
Do what?
Cleave unto him.
So in those situations, instead of going astray from him, You need to be heading into his direction. Meaning what? It's not time to go MIA. Stop picking up the phone for your brothers and sisters. Stop coming to the Sabbath. Stop reading about that. No, that's when you need to up. You need to turn up in those aspects. You understand? God wants you to increase the communication with your brothers and your sisters. God wants you to increase your studying, increase your praying and fasting. Cleave unto him. Go ahead.
And depart not away,
Read.
that thou mayest be increased at thy last end.
Because if you cleave unto him in the time of trouble, the Lord is going to reward you by increasing you at your last end. Let's go back to Job. Let's prove that. Job 42 verse 10.
The book of Job, chapter 42 and verse 10.
Go ahead.
And the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. Also the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before.
Come on.
Then came there unto him all his brethren, and all his sisters, and all they that had been of his acquaintance before, and did eat bread with him in his house. And they bemoaned him, and comforted him over all the evil that the Lord had brought upon him. Every man also gave him a piece of money, and every one an earring of gold.
Come on.
So the Lord blessed the latter end of Job.
He did what?
The Lord blessed the latter end of Job.
Thou shalt be increased at thy last end. Why? Because Job cleaved unto God. Read on.
More than his beginning.
More than he had in the beginning. When he was the richest man in the East, the Lord doubled that after he endured his financial woes. Go ahead.
For he had 14,000 sheep,
Read.
and 6,000 camels, and 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 she-asses.
So go back to Sirach chapter 2, read verse 4.
The book of Sirach, chapter 2 and verse 4.
Go ahead.
Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully.
Why should you take it cheerfully? Because you're going through the same things that the righteous went through in the scriptures. Meaning what? It's highly likely that the Lord having that conversation with Satan, like, you see my buddy alive, can you, hey, that man perfect. That young man perfect right there.
Message.
Saying like, yeah, right. Let me put the spirit on his boss to fire his black guy. I guarantee you, he gonna stop coming to the school. He gonna stop going to camp. He gonna stop calling his counselor. I guarantee it. You gotta understand that that's definitely happening. You understand? If you righteous, you striving to keep these commandments. Listen, that's a glorious thing to know that the Lord is betting on you. You ought to take that cheerfully. Go ahead.
And be patient when thou art changed to a low estate.
So don't make hasty, irrational decisions. Don't go getting jobs on the Sabbath and things of that nature, compromising your ways because of your financial hardships. Be patient when you are changed to a lower state. You saw what happened with Job. He was increased at his latter end. So now from there, let's go to Tobit chapter 4. No, go back to Sirach chapter 11. And let's read verse 12.
The book of Sirach, chapter 11 and verse 12.
Go ahead.
Again, there is another that is slow, and hath need of help, wanting ability, and full of poverty. Yet the eye of the Lord looked upon him for good, and set him up from his low estate.
Read.
And lifted up his head from misery, so that many that saw it marveled at him.
So now jump down to verse 21.
Verse 21.
Go ahead.
Marvel not at the works of sinners.
Right. Don't look at sinners, you understand, and be shaken by their prosperity. Right? They in the midst of all evil, but yet accumulating a lot of worldly material things. Don't marvel at that. Go ahead.
But trust in the Lord.
Read.
And abide in thy labor.
Read.
For it is an easy thing in the sight of the Lord on the sudden to make a poor man rich.
Like we read in verses 12 and 13, the Lord can turn the tables quick, as quick as he want to. You understand? Read on.
The blessing of the Lord is in the reward of the godly.
Come on.
And suddenly he maketh his blessing to flourish.
Right. So if you truly believe that, then when these situations occur, you're not going to make haste and go the opposite direction of what the scriptures is telling you. You're going to abide in your labor. You're going to remain faithful, and the Lord will increase you at your latter end. Right? Watch this. Let's go to Tobit chapter 4, verse 8. Another thing that we must remember, a part of the trial of financial woes is to get you to forget to give. right? Don't fall for that trick. Tobit 4, verse 8.
The book of Tobit, chapter 4 and verse 8.
Go ahead.
If thou hast abundance, give alms accordingly. If thou have but a little, be not afraid to give according to that little.
Right, so God said if you only got a little, don't be afraid to give according to that little. Let's get that example real quick. Mark chapter 12, verse 41.
The book of Mark, chapter 12 and verse 41.
Go ahead.
And Jesus sat over against the treasury, and beheld how the people cast money into the treasury.
Read.
And many that were rich cast in much.
Right, so you had rich people throwing a lot of money into the treasury. Go ahead.
And there came a certain poor widow.
A certain what?
A certain poor widow.
A poor widow. She didn't even have a husband that was alive. You understand? She didn't have a breadwinner above her. It was just her. And she was poor. Go ahead.
And she threw in 2 mites,
Read.
which make a farthing.
Right, so 2 mites. Yeah, 2 cents. Go ahead.
And he called unto his disciples and saith unto them, Verily I say unto you, that this poor widow hath cast more in than all they which have cast into the treasury.
So that's an example of a time where you ought not to keep your 2 cents to yourself. You understand? That's all she had. But she gave all she had. Imagine you being rich, you got 100,000 and you give 1,000. Yeah, 1,000 is a lot, but you got 99,000 left.
I like that precept.
If all you got is 2 mites and that's what you get, you gave all. That's equivalent to a person with 100,000 giving 100,000. You understand? Read on.
For all they did cast in of their abundance,
Read.
but she of her want did cast in all that she had,
She cast in all that she had. Read.
even all her living.
All that she had to her name. Go back to Tobit chapter 4. So that's heavy for us to meditate on. Just because we going broke don't mean we stop giving. That's a trick. That's a part of the trial. You understand? Read.
The book of Tobit, chapter 4 and verse 8.
Verse 9 now.
Verse 9.
Come on.
For thou layest up a good treasure for thyself against the day of necessity.
Because it does something spiritually. You understand? When you only have little and you give according to that little, when the day come where you really, really need something, you wonder why just certain people and certain things come into play that seems miraculous. You understand? That's because that's your arms. The Lord is looking out for you. The Lord is sending these different things into play because of the faith that you had, that you retained in the time of your trial. Jump down to verse 21.
Verse 21.
Go ahead.
And fear not, my son, that we are made poor.
Don't be afraid when you're made poor. Read.
For thou hast much wealth, if thou fear God, and depart from all sin, and do that which is pleasing in his sight.
Because at the end of the day, we are laboring to heap up treasures in the kingdom of heaven. You understand? That's what it's all about anyway. To hell with being rich in this world. We trying to obtain riches of immortality that cannot be stolen, that can't be lost. Right? So now go to Psalms chapter 37 and verse 25. We almost done. Psalms 37 and 25.
The book of Psalms, chapter 37 and verse 25.
Read.
I have been young, and now am old. Yet have I not seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread.
So if you're going through poverty and you're keeping his commandments, the Lord is not a man that he should lie. He not going to leave you broke forever. He not going to leave you begging bread. That's a trial. Stay faithful. Abide in your labor. He going to lift you up. He going to increase you at your last end. You understand? Go to Job chapter 36 and verse 15. A lot of times the Lord just trying to get your attention. Watch this. Read that.
The book of Job, chapter 36 and verse 15.
Go ahead.
He delivereth the poor in his affliction.
The Lord got the power to deliver the poor in his affliction. Read.
And openeth their ears in oppression.
Because when you're doing good, you might not be praying as much as you ought to. You understand? You might not be listening to classes to feed your spirit as opposed to when you going through it. Lord said, let me get your ear real quick. Let me grab that ear. Let me cause you to lose that good old job so you can start watching the 15 minutes with the captain video. The hell is this? You understand? Watch this. Go to Sirach chapter 26 and verse 4. Sirach 26, verse 4.
Book of Sirach, chapter 26 and verse 4.
Come on.
Whether a man be rich or poor, if he have a good heart toward the
If
Lord,
you got a good heart toward the Lord, meaning you truly believe that he is a rewarder for them that fear him, right? Read.
he shall at all times rejoice with a cheerful countenance.
Because if you broke in the Lord, do you know I'm being tried. You know what I'm saying? He trying to prove Satan wrong. All praises. And if you're doing good, you like hell. All praises. So it don't matter your circumstance. If you got a good mind toward the Lord, you're going to always have a cheerful countenance, regardless of your financial circumstance. Last scripture, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 17.
The book of 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 17.
Go ahead.
For our light affliction, which is but for a moment.
But for what?
But for a moment.
So the Bible is telling you poverty is always temporary for the righteous. Now, how long that temporary may be, it might be a long time for you in the flesh. It's nothing for the Lord, right? So this light affliction, an example of light affliction could be poverty, could be hard times. It's but for a moment. Go ahead.
Worketh for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory.
But you staying faithful in those situations, not making haste, but abiding, cleaving unto the Lord, that works you, that builds up your spiritual treasure in heaven, an exceeding weight of glory, beyond any number that you, $1 billion bank account, whatever. You laboring for something that can't even be compared to that. Read.
While we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen.
Go ahead.
For the things which are seen are temporal.
Your bank account is temporary. Go ahead.
But the things which are not seen are eternal.
But the riches you accumulating for righteousness' sake, that's eternal. So through financial woes, stay in the spirit. Lord's willing to help child Israel. Shalom, Most High Christ blessed.
What is a nation? Nation is men leading by example. Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation is you.
And finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord. His word, His word, His word, His word.
Shalom, Israel. This is Bishop Nathaniel. I want you to know that you can view all our Sabbath classes live on IUIC TV. That's right, I said on IUIC TV. Download the app today. Shalom.